Hello, and welcome to this video on what is VPIP and PFR in poker. This video is applicable to several types of poker, but for now, we will only focus on no limit hold'em. This is part of our HUD series where we are looking at the different stats we can use in online poker. There are a few areas to cover in this video. We will start by looking at what VPIP is and what the numbers mean. We will then look at what PFR is, how that relates to VPIP and what the statistics tell us. Finally, we will discuss how VPIP and PFR can be used whilst playing. Let's start with VPIP. VPIP is an acronym and it stands for voluntarily put in pot. You may also hear it referred to as voluntarily put money in pot. VPIP is probably the most commonly used term and statistic in online poker. The term is also used in live poker but is based more on the player types and reads rather than actual statistics. VPIP is a measure of any time a player puts money or chips into a pot where they are not required to. Note that the player voluntarily puts money into the pot. This means that putting the blinds into the pot do not count. If a player calls, including completing the small blind or raises, then that will count towards VPIP. Any situation where a player puts money into the pot without needing to. So, what does VPIP tell us and what do the numbers mean? Well, as VPIP is a measure of how frequently a player is in a hand, it can tell us how wide or narrow their range may be. Before we jump into what we are looking at with the numbers, we need to discuss our sample size. Let's start with 0 to 50 hands. This means we've seen our opponent play 50 hands. This is a terrible sample size. This doesn't consider our opponent may have been card dead or on a hot run. Or, perhaps they were on tilt and playing as many hands as possible. If your sample size is 0 to 50, I would just disregard the information and try to play based on GTO or player pool exploits. Moving on to 51 to 100 hands. This sample size starts to give us indicators of a player's style, but again, it's not telling a complete story. Possible variance in play and the hands dealt are still likely to apply at this sample size. Next bracket is 101 to 250 hands. Still unreliable, but we can start to draw conclusions on how our opponent plays. As the sample size grows, the variance starts to diminish. Looking at 251 to 1000 hands now. Here we can really start trusting the stats. Playing up to 1000 hands with a player can be more than 10 hours playing together. This is where we can rely on VPIP quite heavily to adjust our play as required. Finally, 1000 plus hands. Here we have a very reliable sample size where we can use the value given for VPIP for exploits, if we can find any. We can now have a look at what the actual stats show us. VPIP is based on a percentage where 0% would mean a player has not played any hands, as they have not put any money into any pot voluntarily. On the opposite end of the spectrum, if a player's VPIP is 100%, then they have played every pot as they have put money into every pot. Here are some typical categories that we can use to identify player types based on VPIP. Just a quick note that this is subjective, and some players may like to interpret these percentages differently, but for now, here they are. 0 to 17% is very tight. This is where you will find your nits. They only put money into the pot with a strong, narrow range. 18 to 25% is a tight range. A player with this range of VPIP is still on the nitty side, but is certainly not only playing aces and kings. 26 to 32% is the range that most regs will play. Good players will look to fall into this category. Most regs will be on the lower end in the mid-high 20s. 33 to 50% is starting to become a bit loose. A lot of fun players will play this kind of range, just wanting to get into hands really often. 51% plus is really loose and is asking for trouble. A player with a range this wide is going to struggle in a lot of hands, as their range is just too weak. I think we want to aim for the tight reg range as a newer player. Then progress into the standard reg range as we improve. This will help us in pots where we hit solid pairs, but don't have to worry about being outkicked against opponents. We won't be playing too tight that we become easily exploitable as well. We have covered VPIP, so now let's have a look at what PFR is. PFR is another acronym, and it stands for pre-flop raise. Pre-flop raise shows the percentage of the time a player enters a pot with a raise. This means that if a player limps, they are not contributing towards their PFR. The blinds do not count towards PFR either, as they are technically not a raise. Now we can have a look into what the statistic shows us. What we can do is use the same categories for the sample sizes that we used before with a VPIP. This means that the larger the sample size, the more accurate the statistic. It is a common theme in poker that aggression wins. Terms like tag and lag indicate that being aggressive is the most profitable playstyle. Therefore, we want to try and raise as much as we can pre-flop. Statistically, we should be raising approximately 70% of the time. And, as we know, VPIP shows how often we are playing a hand, therefore a good PFR is 70% of our VPIP. It should be noted that the PFR percentage cannot be greater than the VPIP percentage, as this would mean a player is raising more hands than they are playing, which is nonsensical. So, if we look at our tight reg VPIP from earlier, a good VPIP would be in the range of 18 to 25%, this means our PFR should be in the range of 13 to 18%. We just discussed that a good reg stat line would look something like this. There will be a low VPIP with a high relative PFR, meaning they are playing tight and aggressive, or tag. These are some of the hardest players to play against and is what we should be aiming for. Next there are nits, sometimes referred to as rocks. They are playing too few hands, which indicates they are only playing premiums. Their PFR can vary, as some nits like to limp aces and kings as a trap, whilst others hate getting their aces cracked, so will overplay them pre-flop. This player type is easy to bluff on flops that do not hit their range, and easy to hero fold top pairs versus aggression. Another stat line to look out for are maniacs. These players can be horrible to play against in a short run, but over a long enough run, they may earn us a fair few dollars. If this player type has a high VPIP and PFR, then they become very easy to call down against, as their range will be too wide, leaving them susceptible to overplaying hands. One player type to look out for as a subcategory are lag players. Lag players aren't as crazy as maniacs, although they may have a similar stat line, but thrive off of putting us in horrible spots. Lastly, there are fishy players. These are the player types we want to target and get seated against. They are passive as they have a low PFR, meaning we can see cheap flops without facing aggression. Their high VPIP means they are playing too wide of a range, meaning we can go for value with our stronger hands. This player type is also easy to exploit by overfolding versus their aggression. A deeper dive into exploits for all these player types will be covered in different videos. Here we can see what the stats look like represented as a graph. The tighter the gap between VPIP and PFR, the more aggressively that player plays their hand pre-flop. As we can see, the small gap may indicate a reg player and is what we want to aim for, whereas the large gap may indicate a player is fishy. Let's summarize what we have covered in this video as a little recap. We looked at what VPIP and PFR are and what they stand for and represent. We then had a look at how we can use both these stats at categorizing the different basic player types. And, finally, we discussed what a few basic exploits and play styles we can implement to help play against the different types of players based off of their VPIP and PFR. That's it for this one. Hopefully, you now have a better understanding of what VPIP and PFR are. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this one, please consider liking and subscribing, and don't forget to practice poker.